Thanks for tuning into the Market Wrap. I'm Niraj Shah. And it was a Reliance day, if you will, because frankly, that was the one stock that led the index to do what it did. Otherwise, a bunch of stocks came off as well, even at the broader end of the spectrum. So I'm not quite sure of what the market breadth would have looked like on the NSE 500. We'll bring all of that up. But first, what the indices did. So yeah, I mean, there were other winners, yes. But in terms of heavyweight, which contributed, Reliance Industries all the way. Look at the top 10 names. There was no HDFC Bank, no ITC, no HUL, no IT name in a meaningful way. Reliance up 7%, index up 1.5%. Then you had the likes of BPCL, IOC, etc., doing okay. HDFC Life had some gains because they did a robust performance on the insurance monthly numbers. What didn't do well, Infratel down about 5%, and the crackdown continues there. Airtel surprisingly is just getting beaten down and staying lower. Somehow nobody sees merit in this one anymore. And Britannia had a bit of a dull day. The broader end of the spectrum, though, is the more interesting piece, right? Because the Nifty 50, of course, went up because of Reliance, but the Nifty 500 had very little luck, or the mid cap or the small cap indices didn't have such luck. However, the market was still reasonably positive. ITI, we spoke to the management yesterday, and they expressed a lot of optimism about the kind of orders that will come in, so on and so forth, and up about 12.5. Credit Access Grameen up about 9% in trade. Blue Dart has done about 35% in the last 7 days alone. So really good going there. And then, of course, I'll not say Reliance featured there. SL Propack had this note from Motilal Oswal, which I reckon led to the stock do well. And Sunteck Realty had this note, I think, from one of the brokerages, because of which Sunteck, CLSA, if I'm not wrong, because of which Sunteck went up. And there were a few losers, the likes of Indiabulls Housing Finance, etc., which corrected a bit in trade. NMDC has now been seeing consistent selling pressure down below 90. Key Johnson, talk about all the key stocks and the reasons, therefore, because of which they would have moved today. Nickey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Niraj. I'm going to start off with Reliance Industry. I have to start because it's going to be a complete standout performance coming in from the heavyweight today. Bloomberg report suggested that Reliance is in talks with Amazon. It's willing to sell as much as 40% stake in the retail subsidiary to Amazon for a consideration of around $20 billion. At this point of time, it has already lured in $1 billion coming in from Silver Lake Partners. So clearly we can see that excitement coming in on the heavyweight and the stock scaling a 7% up move out there. Second in my list again is a real estate name. Now we'd want to argue and probably believe that real estate sector could be the next pharma industry in making, because if you look at the performance of how the real estate companies have been doing, particularly in terms of the lockdown period, there's been a huge smart uptick out there. Sunteck Realty itself, I mean, if you look at today's up move, it's a 7% uptick out there. But if you compare that with the lockdown period, the stock has rallied nearly 50% during the lockdown as compared to a gain of 22% seen by Nifty Real Estate Index. Of course, today there was an initiation report by CLSA on Sunteck Realty, which initiated the coverage with buy rating and a target price of nearly 345. Two of these strengths actually moving in the favor of the company. It's where the accretive project acquisition with prudent capital management is the key highlight. According to CLSA report, it says that the company has currently gained market share in Mumbai after shifting its focus from value to volume based players. So that's one good parameter out there. And also, of course, it's ramped up its entire portfolio using an asset light approach. So that also augurs well for the company. Mishra Dhatu Nigam, that's again Midhani is in my list today. Yesterday, actually, the stock did not see any kind of traction. There was a report which came in from IFR, which suggested that the Department of Asset Management, DIPAM rather, would be selling in 10% stake in the company, and it's hired bankers for the stake sale, Elara and SBI Capital. The sale size could be to an extent of $51 million. Now, we're not sure as to, this is a source-based report that we're talking about, and there is no confirmation on this, but we could clearly see some amount of momentum building up on account of the development development in terms of Midani. It was a 5.5% uptick in intraday trade today. And last in the list, of course, we've been talking about how construction companies have been panning out. Dilip Bilcon again, solid set of, if you look at the performance, it's a smart up move, 6-7%. Yesterday also the stock rallied quite a bit. In the morning, you had a report coming in from Nomura and India Reports. I don't know, Niraj, if you remember, we spoke about it earlier. We spoke about how NHI has been awarding, the pace has been picking up, at least when it comes to awarding. If you look at the performance that we've seen from April to August, that's probably the highest that we have in terms of the last 4 to 5 years kind of performance. So that's the kind of momentum coming in from NHI, which Nomura has also pointed out and said that the execution pace has picked up. Also, there have been few of government measures which have come in for construction sector as a part of the stimulus package in May 2020, which has aided the sector, and that's provided some kind of liquidity. We have some amount of balance sheet comfort coming in on these companies. Net overall a buy rating which has been maintained on stocks like Dilip Bilcon and of course PNC Infra. On back of that, there is a smart up move. But then Niraj, I'd like to come back to you and ask you about this IPO, which is Root, IPO. I don't know if it's the same amount of traction that we saw in Happiest Mind Technologies. You think something like a same response can be mustered? Because so far that we've checked, it's like a 2 times kind of subscription so far in the afternoon trade. What do you make out of it?
Yeah, well, let's wait and watch. Again, it's coming on the back of a very successful application for Happiest Minds. So I think tomorrow will be the D-Day for this one. But the conversation seemed promising with the management. So it'll be interesting to see how these numbers evolve, Nickey. It's an interesting IPO and the growth numbers look solid. So let's wait and watch what happens to the subscription at the end of the subscription period, which I think is tomorrow. So it'll be interesting. But thanks, Nickey, for that. Just a very quick word on the global markets before we wrap up and how they are doing. The Nasdaq futures, the last time I saw, were trading in the red, about 100 odd points, and Europe, it'll come up on your screen, flattish to maybe marginally negative. So it'll be interesting to see how the global market shape up today, and it'll give us some indication about how our trade is like tomorrow. Well, if Reliance has its way, then maybe we'll be in the green once again. But from Nickey and me and the team that put this piece together, thanks so much for tuning in.